Hello, everybody, and welcome to Life After Death Beyond. I'm James from Prague, and I'm here with my very good friend, Kellee White. Hello, Kellee.
Hi, James. Hi, everybody.
I was watching a show last night on one of the networks there. It was Netflix or Prime, and it was, does my voice sound too gay? And I thought, and it was such a waste of film. But, and this guy's going around the whole time wondering if he sounds too gay. I'm like, what does that sound like? It's like, it's just interesting, but... Well, the reason I said that because I never like looking at my own videos again. I don't like the sound of my voice. Are you like that? Maybe because I'm a bird?
No, I can't
watch it.
No,
I can't rewatch anything.
No.
How are you doing there, Kel?
I'm doing really well, actually. Got a lot of rest this weekend.
Oh, good. You needed it.
I needed it. And I saw the best, sweetest movie, James. It's called The Ballad of Wallace Island.
Oh, I'm going to watch
The Ballad of Wallace Island. And it's so sweet. I think it's on like Paramount or something. And it's just one of those, kind of old-fashioned movies that takes place now. It's just sweet.
And what's the name of the island, Kellee?
Wallace Island. And apparently it's a real island, like somewhere off the coast of England or somewhere.
Oh, good. I'll watch it.
I just thought it was sweet. Okay. If anybody wants to, the world is just so crazy that I just thought
we have the show tonight on miracles.
Miracles. It's a miracle when a good movie comes out.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are not involved as far as they used to be in television movies. Well, I'm writing my autobiography right now, and I'm up to one of the chapters where I talk about my relationship with my father. And one of the things I remember the most was kneeling down in front of the television and changing the channels when he told me to change to 3 different channels.
Oh my gosh.
Things have really changed now. And there's so much product that the quality has gone down, I feel.
Yeah.
I really do. Yeah. So very interesting. Very, very. I had a talk with the producer this past week who did Ghost Whisperer with me. And he mentioned about how, we talked about what it's like right now, how different it is now than it was when I was doing that show, like, I don't know, 120 something. And he said, I said, it's all owned by the streaming services. He goes, all the studios are pretty much streaming services. That's who owns them.
Wow.
Very interesting world.
Things have changed.
Things have changed. LA has changed now. We have National Guard there.
It is. It's true. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Things are changing. We predicted it.
We did predict it. And we are interesting enough for the next couple of months. We have really astrologically some heavy duty energy. Actually,
when is that Mars one? Did that pass?
No, it's going on right now. Mars is in Leo in Vedic astrology, everybody. And K2 also is in Leo. And they're conjunct for the next 8 weeks. Okay. So Keto is a higher form of Mars. So if you think of Mars as active and energy and war, K2 kind of brings it to another place. So for the next 8 weeks, to the end of July, actually.
Wow. And it's going to go elsewhere besides LA, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And then the hurricanes, tornadoes, all that is involved as well, isn't it? As far as astrology goes.
Oh, yeah. These are some big energies here.
Big energy. So got to ground yourself. Everybody, center yourself. Go out and have gratitude, boy, and smell the flowers. I just think goodness. I was writing helping my niece write her speech for graduates, and she's head of Board of Education.
Well, tell everybody what she's somebody to be heard.
It's like my daughter, and it was very good. I was reading her. She read my speech. She said, "Yes, but I might have to give you some notes." She goes, "Please." And being a Virgo, she is. Yeah, she wrote about time. And about the time that kids are given and the time now to go into the world. And I talk about the elusiveness of time because time really is only this physical world. So speaking of time, getting into that segue, tonight's show is on miracles. And interesting enough, Kellee, I'm going to first ask you, what's your definition of miracles?
So my definition of a miracle is a surprising and welcome event that's not explicable by natural or scientific laws, and it's therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency. So it's something that's highly improbable or an extraordinary event that brings amazing consequences.
Mm-hmm. And when I was researching this also, and I've written about certain things, miracles, and it's so interesting how we progress or degress, and how people always tie religious Christianity or religion into miracles, because I guess a lot of that religion used that term miracles a lot.
Sure.
So supernatural, it could be supernatural powers. And it's separate than religion, everybody. It's not, it's not that. They can use it that way, but I agree with you. I think it's something out of the ordinary. And I think just like mediumship is a miracle. And every time I do a reading, I'll say to my audience or my one-on-one person, say, listen, when this stops happening, then I don't do it anymore because the miracle's over, because it's a miracle to reach between the spectrums and spheres and bring through.
Sure is.
Yeah, that's a miracle and humbling.
Yeah.
I think we have miracles every day, but we don't recognize them.
Oh, just being alive is a miracle.
Yeah, and I think that the spirit guides, your family, the spirit guides, people that are supporting you in the spirit world, which are many. I think they create, we want to call them miracles, those experiences that happen to us, for us, in really strange ways, out of the ordinary ways that we don't expect. And those are definitely miracles, if you want to call them that. My friend Julie just met a gentleman, and she's been alone for a long time. He was, and we're talking last year. So you'll meet someone right for you. But sometimes it takes the spirit world a long time to get the pieces together. You got to remember that, right? So, and sure enough, she met a man who's like, he's pepper, she's salt. They're great. They're perfect together.
Isn't that great?
It was a miracle. Everyone said it was, marriage made in heaven. Well, I think her father helped and his father helped. But I do think they can do that. They can make things happen for us. And the more open we are for these events, for these synchronicities, coincidences, God's way for me, anonymous, we'll get them. When you step out of that control, oh, I need this to happen. I got to get this job, or I need someone. Get out of the way. Let them have faith and trust, and let it evolve and flow through.
Right. Oh, absolutely. It's interesting because spiritually, a miracle is an extraordinary event attributed to a divine or a supernatural intervention. Often it demonstrates the power and the nature of a higher being or a force. So its occurrence actually defies normal explanations and suggests some sort of spiritual presence at work.
That's why I say mediumship is that.
Right, absolutely.
Because science are not able to measure mediumship. They don't, it's so funny. When I first started this work, they would say, well, science can't prove it. We can't prove it. Science doesn't exist. So they don't have the technology yet to understand mediumship and frequencies and energy. They don't have that yet. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist because they can't measure it. So it's a miracle. And I looked this up for non-Christian context. Miracle often defined as an extraordinary event that is just statistically unlikely or defies the laws of nature, as you're speaking, causing wonder and astonishment. It's an event that would normally be considered improbable or impossible. That actually happens. This definition doesn't necessarily involve divine intervention or supernatural, but rather focus on the exceptional nature of the event itself, which I think that's all of that is true. And whether supernatural or just natural, or maybe it happens naturally, but on this level, we don't understand what natural is.
Right. Right. And often what we find with miracles when they occur is they have a transformative effect on people, a big impact.
Yeah. How could they not?
Right? How could they not? Yeah.
Yeah. That's why again, going back to mediumship, when you and I do demonstrations in front of people and they're like, wow. I just met a guy 2 days ago. We called him on the phone, his mutual friend, his sister. And he said, I met you back in your apartment in West Hollywood. You're in a small little tiny apartment. He said, there were beads on the wall, picture of Che Rivera, there's black lights. And I'm thinking, he doesn't have the right guy.
Right.
Right.
Beads on the wall.
Beads on the wall. That's me. And he said, I thought this guy's a joke. But then he said, oh my God, he knows things about my dad that no one knew but me, my dad. So it's like, it is. It's of course. And he goes, James, you changed my life. And mediumship can change people's lives.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Medical miracles as well. There are medical miracles all the time. I think when one's more open to receiving, they can have more miracles in their life. I know. Yeah, I think everything's a miracle. I think where I live is a miracle. I think having my dog is a miracle. I think talking to you is a miracle. Having you as a friend is a miracle. I think it's all a miracle. I think it's one big miracle.
No, I do too, James. Well, there was a big thing that they called the Miracle on the Hudson. Do you remember the Miracle on the Hudson?
Sure.
And that was a huge, the Miracle on the Hudson was at U.S. Airways. That was flight 1549 from LaGuardia to Charlotte, actually. And it was hit
Kellee?
by a flock of birds. Yeah, and the airplane lost all engine power. And it was Sully Sullivan that guided that plane onto the Hudson, and all 78 people survived.
Wow.
And that, to me, was a huge miracle.
That's a miracle.
Just thinking about that. Sometimes I get on a plane and I think about that, and I go, well, that was a big miracle.
And Scully's a miracle maker.
He's a miracle maker, no doubt.
How many beings are involved in that?
Right?
Happen and how they shift things around, and it's such an interesting. I find that fascinatingly interesting.
But you know what? It could be too, James. I mean, sometimes I view it this way too: that it was a planned event for all the angels to come around and all the guides and everybody to help that plane land, so we would all understand the power of the other side, or the power of that.
It's true. It's very, very true. Very, very true.
Just another way to view things.
Yeah. Wow. Also, spiritual miracles typically understood event, right? Miracles are often attributed to a divine source, like you said, are spiritual entities, powers. Yes and no. I think it goes back to religion, so we can be careful about that.
Right.
Types of miracles. Spiritual miracles can manifest in various forms, including healings of physical ailments, which I've actually seen, resurrection from the dead. Well, not about that. Control of nature and manifestation. I have seen Kellee. I actually was watching a manifestation, and it was a medium. I think it was a medium. It was in Brazil, and there was an animal. Was it an animal or an insect, something like that, under a glass thing, and it was dead. It was dead about, I don't know, 20 minutes, and then he worked on it, and it came back alive.
Wow!
A miracle. And he was a healer. So
wow,
healing is miracles. Yeah. Some might interpret miracles as literal events that defy science explanation. Others view them as symbols or metaphorical representations of spiritual truths. So let's, for instance, you and I were together with my roommate Ken at the time. We're sitting in my backyard, and my friend Brian brought us all a soda. Brian leaves, and the three of us happen to look up, and there's a hawk flying by, and out of the hawk's beak comes a sparrow flying the other way. And you went, psychic.
The male psychic. Well, your life is sure going to change.
And certainly did within a year. Yeah, I got a divorce. That's a miracle, but that was a miracle.
It was a miracle. Was a miracle. Yeah.
I think it's a miracle. I think there are always little miracles every day. I don't think it'd be grandiose things. I think little things also miracles.
I had a big miracle. You remember with my daughter, I had a huge miracle.
Okay, you got to tell everybody, because this Kellee's book is all about miracles. Her whole book, I'm reading it. I'm like, did this really happen? Oh my God! I called Kellee. You never told me this. Wait till you hear this, guys.
Yeah. So, and for people that haven't read my book, it's a big event that I'm going to say, and so just know that it had an extraordinary outcome. But it's a bit traumatic. So if you hear it for this time. Isn't that a great cover? Thank you, Michelle. It is a great cover. Yeah. But when my daughter was about 18 months old, so she didn't weigh very much. She was tiny, but she was about 18 months old. And my mother,
Kellee, you need to build this up, because you were in a certain state of mind. You got to tell them that.
Well, I mean, I was long before I was a medium or a psychic. If that's what you mean. I mean, I was in the, you were
in an emotional state of mind. You were having a real pressure between your job, what to do, as a family.
I was under a lot of pressure, actually. But my mother had just moved to a new house, and that was the thing. And I was a single mother, and I wasn't a single mother at the time, and actually it's how I became a single mother, actually. But now that I remember the story, that's how it happened. That's right. I mean, so what happened is I was a mother. My daughter was, again, 18 months old, and we were at my mother's house. She had a brand new house, and the house had brand new windows in it, but we didn't know that the windows were there. We knew that windows were there, but we didn't know that they were not set in correctly. And so my daughter, who was a baby, 18 months old, she walked over. She was just walking, and I thought, well, I'm just going to allow her to get close to that window, but I felt so uncomfortable about it. But I was standing right next to her, and my daughter pushed the window out, and she fell 3 stories right in front of me. 3 stories. Yeah. And it was as traumatic as you could ever imagine.
What was your first reaction? Well, obviously shock. But
I screamed, call 911 somehow. And my mother was in the other room, and she fell 3 stories, and she fell right in front of my stepfather, who was down below. So it was traumatic for the whole family.
Wow.
And took me, it was transformative. And that's why I use that word in miracles. It was a transformative experience. It changed my entire life. I learned everything about trauma that I know now to be true.
But you brought it to the emergency room.
So we brought her to the emergency room, and it was a miracle. They called her the miracle in Los Angeles. She survived. She was in a pediatric intensive care.
Not even a scratch on her.
Not a scratch, not a bruise. And what kills a baby is the pancreas just smashes. But that's not what happened here. And she fell straight on cement, everybody. So it wasn't like this was like, it was, like a padded place. So, but it was a real miracle. And then my mother didn't know what to do with me, James. And so she sent me, a year went by and I was just, just beside myself with not wanting to live. I was so depressed. I was so shook up because it was so traumatic. But my mother sent me to a woman who was a medium
in Malibu.
She didn't know anything about anything. Yes. And she ended up saying to me, look, your daughter was carried down by angels. They're telling me all about the angels. And she said it was a miracle. And that's when I first got the word miracle. And it changed my life. Wow. So do I believe in the power of miracles? You betcha I do. You bet.
I was once in a place which was, I might have mentioned this a long time ago. I was with our good friend Jordy Fisher in Lime, Ohio. And we're going down a freeway or expressway. I forgot we're in the eastern part of Ohio. And I was on my Facebook page with some people. And they said, oh, you need to go to the cathedral. It's in blah, 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 Ohio. Oh. I think Carrington, Ohio, I think it was. I'm not sure. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And we just happened to be at that particular exit for this cathedral. There's actually a sign. So we went right off the exit and went to this cathedral with our friend Jim, who was in the backseat. Jim's very skeptical, but very into this, these things. Okay, we'll try it out. So it was a huge cathedral, middle of nowhere. And supposedly what happened was, forgive me, friends, Our Lady of whatever Our Lady was from, I'm not Fatima, Our Lady of something. And they carried her when she got off the boat from Portugal. They carried her from the dock to where the church is, the cathedral, and it was pouring down with rain. And there was only light and dryness around the statue they were holding and the men or priests that were holding the statue. And this is on video. You can see this. And so it goes into this church, and it's called the Church of Our Lady of Roses. Okay. Oh. So we walk into this lobby and we look, and there are all crutches and wheelchairs and canes all over the walls of this. And then downstairs, the lower part of the church, again, all you see are these canes and wheelchairs and crutches and so forth, and pictures and thank yous, and supposedly from that church. And what happens is, I guess, rosebuds will fall from the ceiling and you get healed. So we're walking around in the church, and my friend Jim loves stained glass windows, looking at that, and we're all separated. We're going to do our own thing. Felt fabulous. Great energy, strong energy, an energy like I felt when I was in Brazil. It's very intense, clean, but very pure. So we all met again outside in the vestibule. And like, wow, now that was an incredible place. And he goes, wow, I just see those stained glass windows. And she goes, yeah. And all of a sudden, things start dropping down on us. Rose petals.
Oh my gosh.
Rose petals. We had about
amazing
10 rose petals right at our feet. And we picked them up. We couldn't see. They're right there. We picked them up. And we went to the nunnery across the street, and we went to the Catholic church, the Catholic school, store, the store for things. So we asked them at the cash register, and the lady said, I haven't seen that happen. I've heard of it, but it doesn't happen often. Wow. And she goes, go see the priest, the rectory. So we crossed the street, the priest, the rectory, and it was a father, that was a brother. And he looked at us like we were from outer space. He goes, that just doesn't happen. It's like, well, this is the way we roll, and it does happen to us.
Wow, and that's just amazing.
That's a miracle. Yeah. And then I use it for healing people, for giving people, who needs it, a petal. Over the years, around he left, because I gave them people who need healing. But that was a miracle, and that's a church. That is a miracle. Yeah, it also, I think, has affected Kellee, when, like Fatima and Our Lady of Lourdes is a religious place where people think miracles occur. And sometimes, of course, they do, or whatever we want to say, phenomena. I think sometimes when there's so much thought created by humans, they create a manifestation of things.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
I've read that before.
Like there's an energy almost, or a portal, if you would, in that kind of an energy?
If so many people, the same thought, it can create something. Like any religious place you go to, you walk in, you feel the energy of this religious place, whether it's St. Patrick's Cathedral or a mosque or something, you'll feel the intensity of an energy. It's like, wow. And you know, I just kneel down, know where I am, and just honor that feeling. And it's all people's thoughts are just contained in that space about love or higher awareness, whatever it might be, healing. So
it's got to be. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Here, Our Lady of Guadalupe, they were saying.
I think that there's a special place on the other side. I'm just saying this to everybody because I have no idea until I pass over. But I think there must be a place or places on the other side to learn how to manipulate energy and people's thoughts that they bring over in such a way that they can create things. Like, for instance, I think that probably there's going to be a certain level of frequency of their thought that would match up with the event for them to try to make that happen. And they learn on the other side how to lower the vibration, create, manifest with the human. Right. That's what I'm thinking. It's just total hypothesis, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
Wow.
I think we're going to find more miracles or inventions and things in the next 10 to 20 years for a lot of medical things. I think we're going to find stuff, and it sounds really weird, out of space. We're going to find something from out of space that'll help us here.
Yeah.
Kellee, what do you think of aliens?
Oh, they exist.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. We're alien.
That's the Vatican Library, by the way, everybody. The Vatican Library is filled with them. I used to see them as developing beings of light. I told you a story. Yeah, I told you that story. I was my Beyond TV show. We had an opening for a party in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah. That's a great story. It's a great one.
And it was amazing. It was in the courtyard. There were 200 people there. Most of my friends from all over. And my friend Jordy, who we talked about was one corner of that, and my friend Dorothea, another healer, was another corner, and there were all the people. And all of a sudden, I look up, and right over the top of us was a ship with lights looking right down, just like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I'm like, wow. Everybody's got to see this. It's so big. And I look over to Jordy. Jordy looks at me. I look at Dorothea. We're the only ones looking at each other. We're like, and nobody else saw it. And it was huge. That was not interesting.
And nobody else saw it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just amazing. Wow. You know, James, last week you did that great channeling.
That was amazing, wasn't it? I thought about that.
Amazing.
Because I was thinking, what did we do last week? Oh, I did the channeling thing.
And talk about miracles. You brought on at least 4 different entities with all big messages. Yeah, tell everybody afterwards.
I remember
how you felt after.
Yeah, I remember there was someone named Garrison, and I know I had some ties with Custard. So I went online to look for Custard, and I was like, not sure. But there was definitely named Garrison who was next to me. The little boy that came through, I don't know anything about that. The lady, I don't know anything. I do know at one point what I felt was I heard them speaking, but I was kind of like out back here or like in another room. I describe it. You know what's going on, but you allow yourself to become so influenced that you're really kind of observing it. And I was very, very aware, and I had to stay out of the way. I didn't want to help them because you can't kind of get in their way when they have, psychic surgeons, really people working on you to do this, to manifest. I knew they were working on my vocal cords to try to change things, the sound of the vocal cords. A little boy, and I think a lady, I think they changed that way. When you see someone good trance channeling, wow, that's what you see. And many times they will stand up and start walking around. I've seen it with people that can't even walk, and they get up and start walking around when they're in trance.
Wow.
Spirit overtakes them. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah, I was that night we spoke, and I think we spoke after that. It took me a while to get back to the body. And I still was really out of it till the next day. And then that next day, I think I met you, Kellee. I was exhausted.
Oh, yeah. You said you really had to take a nap. Yes.
I had to take a nap, and I fell right out, and I was really tired. So out, and that's what happens when you don't do that on a regular basis. You're not used to that energy and that vibration. But that was a miracle.
Total miracle. And that you did it right here, in front of everybody here.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary.
Everybody here.
Everybody was amazed.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I think that, I'm talking about this a lot with my mediumship 2 students. A lot of people. I really enjoy everybody who's watching, and some of you, a lot of my school. I love having my student calls like once a week. I have these different Zoom calls with all my students, and it's great to find out how they do these lessons, and then they use them in everyday life, and they come back to let me know what happened, and it's really been fascinating. But yeah, it's really great to do this. And one of the things I say is you got to jump in life. In life, You need to jump in and surrender yourself to the universe. Let the universe take care of you. Let miracles happen. Be open for miracles. Never expect it to come the way you think it's going to come, because it always comes around. I moved to California to be a sitcom writer, and here I am. I'm not a sitcom writer, but hello.
So true.
Right?
That's so true. Oh my gosh. I know somebody really, really well. I'll tell you later who it is. Really well. Who that she ran out of money. She had no money. And she'd been a school teacher. She ran out of money and she didn't know what to do. So she started praying for a miracle. And she went out and she bought a lottery ticket, one lottery ticket. She bought one lottery ticket and she took the names of all the loved ones that had been in her family that passed. And she won the lottery, James. Wow, and it changed everybody's life. Everybody's life. Not that I'm suggesting go out and pray and win it. I'm not suggesting that whatsoever. I've never bought a lottery ticket in my life. Never. But it was really one of those. What do you think about something like that?
I think it was meant to be. I really do. I think in life one has to earn everything. I really do. I think we all have to earn things.
Even miracles, you think?
I think sometimes even miracles, or maybe to push us on a certain path. Or have a certain awareness of something that'll change our way of thinking, that'll force us to look at something and go, wow, that's
transformative. Something that will transform you.
Transformative, yeah.
Maybe our guides stand by and they go, okay, now we're going to give her something that'll change her life.
Another type of miracle is the spiritual growth. For some reason, experiencing or witnessing spiritual miracles can be powerful catalysts for spiritual growth and a deeper connection with the divine. So many parents that lose their children will become it's a miracle because it forces them to get on their spiritual path. And I've seen it with thousands of parents who lose a child, end up writing books, having organizations, changing things around, which never would have happened if that soul decided not to go. So,
and that changes other people's lives.
Yeah. And I think that everybody should be open to every religion has bits of the truth. Anyone has all the truth. I think religion is just love. Everyone's one. But I think if we just dissect or pick the pieces of certain religions that tell the truth, that are honest, and I always say the golden rule, live by the golden rule, treat someone as you want to be treated. Some people have said to me, you're too nice. I'm like, I beg your pardon. You're too nice. I was like, what do you mean too nice? You shouldn't have these people over your house. You're too nice. I said, well, why do I have a house if I can't invite people over to enjoy it or be someone's friend at a dog park? I'm not enjoying them. I'm just.
Well, you're hardly a pushover.
I'm hardly a pushover.
Hardly a pushover.
I'm not a pushover. I'm very aware of who I am. Yeah. I think I came into this world knowing who I was, very much so.
I can't wait to read your autobiography.
Oh, it's pretty trippy. Oh, I'm finding things left and right. I'm like, I forgot about that. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Oh my God. Yeah.
Do you find that it's starting to come more in as you really start to hone in on it?
Yes.
Like the memories start to flow?
Yes. I was just looking yesterday at my old town in Queens, and there were pictures in the 1960s. And before my sister Lynn passed away, is a good one. So then I would talk on the phone, and I'd say, well, let's go take a tour. So in our minds, we walked down the main boulevard, Bell Boulevard in Bayside, Queens. And I said, well, this was on this street corner. Do you remember who worked there? She goes, no. I said, oh, it was Shell. And it was George who was when I worked there. And across the street, that was Emily's. Oh, yeah, Emily's. So we went, she goes, would you remember this at 39th Avenue? So it was very interesting doing that. I was surprised for that. And then yesterday I went online, and YouTube actually have pictures of these places. And I copied a lot of them and sent it to my other sister who's live. And I said, hey, I got a trip for you. Look at the 60s. Here you go. And it's very interesting how it really brings back all those memories. Once we pass over to the other side and we have our life review, you relive every situation you lived in, and you relive it. For instance, I was watching yesterday a card store that was in this black white photo. Like, I remember standing on that step waiting for the bus to go home. And I remember thinking, it's late. The bus is late. Now, that came from looking at that picture.
Wow.
You really relive everything down to the nth degree. You feel everything. And I remember as a little boy when I'd be walking from school home, and I was always a loner, always, or I'd be beat up, one or the other. So I decided to be alone. It was true. I think it was my hope, right? So I would just imagine, my daydream. I used to daydream a lot, which is probably why I'm doing what I'm doing now. But it was so much fun. And I would have fun walking home and pretending about this house and what goes on in that house. So look at the cracks in the walk and look at that tree. And it's fun. I thought it was always fun. But I always had that sense of, I don't know, always had a sense of I don't want to describe miracles. I don't know. For me, when I look at those things, like, yeah, that's the way it is. But there's so much more.
Right.
There's so much
Right.
more. Because of the work I've done for all these years, I just don't look at a face value. It goes so much deeper. Like, what's behind it? Always, what is behind this? What is behind when someone talks to me like, and I should be very careful about it, but I can't help myself. What's behind the words they're saying?
Right, right, right.
I look at that producer in Hollywood. He goes, it's very cynical. I'm very cynical. I said, well, that's why I moved out of there, because I don't want to become cynical. And I could see that living in Hollywood being cynical. But it's everybody has a thing, I guess. I don't like to think that way. I really don't. But it is what it is. We just got to be responsible for yourself.
Right. Wow. Laura Crum says she went to high school in Whitestone, Queens. Is that near you?
Yeah, my brother lived in Whitestone, Queens.
Ah.
I knew Whitestone very well. We used to go to the Whitestone swimming pool there, the communities. And here's one for you. I went to Kitty City on Northern Boulevard.
Wow.
There were so many boomers in the 50s and 60s that they had to do something with the kids for these suburbs. So they created a little amusement park in this meadowland area. It was really creepy. And it was Kitty City, and they had rides and carousels. And I remember it.
Wow.
I remember things. I remember right now in my book I'm up to where my mother, I told her how psychic she was. She was pretty psychic.
Right. Have to be to bring you in.
Yeah, as a kid, I remember lying in her bed, and I was in the living room, and she was in her bed, and I heard her talk to mother and father at the end of the bed, who were dead. And so I was like, oh, I guess she's seeing them, whatever. But then I remember I'm writing about it right now. She said one day, and it was a Wednesday. Yeah, it was a Wednesday. And I didn't know it was a Wednesday, so I started writing this. And I knew it was 9:45. How did I know it was 9:45? 9:45. She said that myself and my oldest sister, my sister Maura, she said to my brother Michael, you've got to come to the store. We're going to go grocery shopping. And we used to go every Wednesday. And what do you hear this, Kelly? So, and this is all a miracle to remember all this. My brother, being the rebel, he always has.
Sure.
I'm staying home. He's been 10 years old. And he stayed home, played soldiers up in the attic area of the house. And the three of us went to, I remember the name of the store. It was called Bohack's Grocery Store.
Where'd that come from?
I remember my sister Maura used to fight over which side of the back seat we're going to sit at, which window.
Right.
I just remember that as I'm doing it. And I remember coming out of the grocery store and mother's putting stuff in the back and in the trunk, and also fire engines go by. She goes, our house is on fire. Sure enough, we got to our house and it's blazing on fire. My brother was playing with matches in the attic, and
well, that's a miracle. And the house didn't burn down.
The house didn't, just the top of it, which had to be redone anyway. So it's funny, but wow. I said to my other sister, I said, well, where were we sleeping before that? I don't remember. She was like, I guess we were sleeping up there somewhere. Gosh, that's strange. But anyway, I'm remembering these little things, and I don't know how to say it, but my whole life has been kind of observing things to happen.
Your life's been a miracle too, James. I mean, your life has been a miracle. I mean, just becoming who you are, and from the beginning with no fear about it and doing this work. That's a miracle.
I think it was just because I think I came in knowing who I was.
You definitely do. You're an advanced soul that just said, all right, I see all of this and this is how I'm going to handle it. And you did.
Well, and I think that, and you never know how it's going to happen. That's the fun part. It's like, wow, how is this going to happen?
Right.
But it's just, I think everybody can have miracles in their life. Mm-hmm. Things can change in your life. If you hold on to that thought, what you desire, and have passion behind it and emotion, and make it real in your mind, you can create it. And you don't know how it's going to happen, but it'll happen. And kind of live in that state of it's already happened. It's already happened. So let's say you're hurting for finances and you have some finances come in. Just imagine that you're living in a place, maybe it's an apartment, whatever it might be, where you are completely well with finances and everything's great and you're enjoying yourself and you're watching a certain TV show. Be very specific, but know that, you have no worries whatsoever financially or whatever it might be. So, I'm manifesting a partner right now.
Oh, that's a good one. And manifest. Well, you'll manifest that. And health too. Manifesting health.
Health is a really good one. Again, I think green light is such a great healing tool. I use that all the time for modalities of healing. And whenever I'm getting a massage, or whenever I do acupuncture, I always work with them, and I just bring healing light, that frequency of healing into the cells into the different bodies, into my mind. And it's so interesting. And it just feels great.
We're getting a lot of questions about what's happening in LA, and talking about
What is
miracles.
I don't watch the news. I really
Oh,
don't. I stopped watching the news about a year ago because I don't want to hear anything about what's going on with that, anything. So I
there,
just, it's better.
there
But
have
I know
been some
garters.
deep situations near downtown and throughout.
I lived there,
Um,
Kelly, during the the riots.
riots. Me too. Of
When
course, I was right there when it happened.
there was being a fire right down the street, and I
Yep.
grabbed my partner at the time who got in the car and said, and she had a knife, and yeah, we had to go to West Hollywood. It was weird time.
It was
Very
such a strange
frustrating.
time, but I think now, though, with what is going on there, if everybody could just focus and send some really love and send all the angels to Los Angeles, because we need them now. We really need them.
And these people on the front line of just having rights, I guess, freedoms. We can't take our freedoms for granted. That's for darn sure.
Yeah.
And we're all the same. No one's any different. So.
And what do you mean by green light, James? Sending green light.
So green light to me is, well, the frequency of green. Again, I don't know enough about musical notes and all that, but I do feel intuitively that vibration of green, or a variation of, therefore, of that hue, color, brings balance, brings a sense of balance, brings a sense of peace, brings a sense of stability.
Mm-hmm.
And I've used it before, and I was told that by a healer many, many years ago, probably my teens. And I've always used green light, and it seems to do the trick. Now, I use also, unconditional love, pink.
Right.
I use that as well. It depends on the situation that I'm dealing with. If there's a lot of there's a lot of mental energy, they're worrying about other people, that's taking up all their energy in their mind. So I'll give them extra energy, open up a space for them, and I'll just imagine that their worry energy, red energy, is going down the body out to their toes or their fingers, and I give them a lot of green or pink. And sometimes I tell them just to imagine themselves in a mirror and see how perfect you are. And that does it right away. We humans spend so much time worrying. I mean, we really do. We can, as I get older, I get more and more clairvoyant as I get older, by the way. Really interesting. Watching it, interesting happening. And very sad, funny. Birds now thank me for putting food out for them. They sit in there and go, thank you. And I think Pearl helped with that because I'm very telepathic. And, in the spirit world, you communicate with you telepathically.
Right.
And the birds and I now are starting to think, and it sounds nutty, but it's true. And I think that, I don't know, I think you're got to start thinking miracles in yourself. You are a miracle to be here on this earth. We don't give ourselves enough. My friend who passed over said, I wish humans would pay attention to more of themselves, because they don't. They worry outside themselves instead of going within themselves. Right. And, we're an honor. We have to honor our miracle. Life is a miracle.
Charlene Miller says, Kelly, I know, and James, I know, certainly we've had the love of miracles in my life. It would be awesome to have all of us share our miracles, and anyone willing to share. That's true. It's true. I would love it. If anybody has these miracles, I know that Dee Dee from Chicago had written that she'd been trying for years to have children, and suddenly she was able to have 2 kids. I mean, miracles do happen.
Charlene, why don't you write a book and collect people's miracles and write a book of miracles?
That would be great.
There you go, Charlene. Go for it.
Go for it.
People need to hear your voice.
So true.
She was like, huh?
No, but
there's Evie's book about miracles for the world. What I do also for the world is I will put green light around the planet.
That's beautiful.
And I go also sometimes put green light and meditation war areas and send it right there. And I also send out a prayer, a thought, if you will, that so you work on the higher levels, if you will, the higher frequencies of their higher selves, if you will. And I know they're already doing that in some respects, but I try to bring more energy to that, of making that and making it drop down to the physical human parts of the sense that we're all one, we're all connected, and don't hurt that person, because you're really hurting yourself. And when you pass over, you got to realize you hurt yourself. Don't do that. And I try to, in some weird way, when I'm doing healing work with the people and other places of the world, I try to envision that and send that awareness. Thoughts are things. Thoughts don't just drop away. They're realized. They go. They are in the ethers, and you see people's thoughts. It reminds me of those snow globes.
Oh, yes.
That's what it is. And make sure
Yeah.
the thoughts are happy ones and good ones, because when you pass over, that's what's going to meet you. So make sure you enjoy your thoughts. Make someone's life happy, and yourself as well. Yeah.
Kathy Jane says the Japanese thing to do is to drink a glass of water first thing in the morning with the intention, show me a miracle today. I've been doing that for the most days. I love that. Show me a miracle today. I love that.
I do that. I do it every day. I lemon water. Of course, now I'm drinking.
Yeah, I do lemon water too.
But I have lemon trees, so I just freeze a lot of them, and I get lemon water every morning. And I have gratitude, and I look forward to the new day, and I'm open to miracles to happen.
Right. So that's what we should say. I'm open to miracles to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And some people want to hit miracles like, please, dear God, make my father well again. Make my father well again. He's sick. Please make him. A lot of people pray for the health of certain people, but I never do that because I don't want to get in the way of their destiny, their soul's destiny. So when I pray or send out thoughts for that reason, for healing, and once they make them better, I'll say, pray for their highest good. What is the highest good for that soul? I send it the highest good, because that soul's highest good might be that they need to leave the body, but how they leave the body, I'm praying for their highest good. Just something like that. Just a little different way of doing it.
Wow.
I need miracles in my life. Patricia said, I need miracles in my life. So I would say to you, why don't you have miracles in your life? And if you probably do, but you don't recognize them.
Yeah. That's so true.
And what do you consider miracles? Because breathing's a miracle.
Yes, it is.
This internet thing is in a way a miracle. It could be positive, negative, but we see each other from around the world. Right. So that's how I look at it. I get frustrated with passwords, hate them, but I love that we're able to be with everybody, which is great.
Right. This is so true. Wow.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh,
and you've recently had a miracle, Kelly.
Which miracle is that? That my house is kind of getting close to getting finished? That's a friggin' miracle.
And you visualize that.
I have been visualizing this for 2 years, but who's counting?
One thing great about you, Kelly, which everybody should learn from, is you've been through hell. Okay, you really have been. You've been through hell. I mean, you have a big place, and you kind of knocked it down and started from the beginning in the middle of chaos.
Yes.
And you've been living in chaos. You've been living with, I've seen it. Plastic stuff.
I have been living in chaos for 2 years. We have been. And my 2 dogs and Don. Yeah.
Your 2 dogs and Don.
Big dogs.
In the middle of nowhere, by the way.
Correct.
And
chaos. No restaurants. Chaos.
And you're a chef, and you can't really cook now.
Well, now I can, because my kitchen is finished and it's beautiful, and I couldn't be more. I'm so happy. That really has been a miracle to get where we are right now.
Miracle. That is a miracle. It has
been a miracle. Yeah, and I thank every God for it every day.
And how you and Don met, and how you and Don are together is a miracle too.
Right. You're right. All of that.
How you and I met, a miracle.
How you and I met. For sure, a miracle. All of this has been a miracle. I mean, how the fact that we, started doing this show a few years ago and it's still going. That's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
And thank you, everybody. And James, let's talk about Maui. Let's talk about Maui.
If you want to experience miracles, folks, go to Maui with me. So I'm doing this with Susan White. She's a good friend now. She's a practitioner of healing, yoga work, and she does breath work and body work. And I work with her try to do Monday, Wednesdays. And we started yoga and Pilates and some other work. And she didn't say anything to me, but I pulled it out of her. She was a Scorpio. I pulled it out of her. And I said, wow, my knee used to hurt. It doesn't hurt anymore. Something else hurt. Wow. I said, and then I had these dreams about things in the past. And what she does is she pulls out traumas from body parts.
That's amazing.
Without even knowing it. She just does that. Wow. And so I'm doing a retreat with her in Maui in July. And we're going to heal the mind. People carry so much stuff in their mind. We're going to look at that stuff. We're going to look at what they carry with them, acknowledge it. Why do they carry it? How to live in a more successful, loving way of self, getting rid of the traumas that those mindsets hold on to, then working with body work. And the last day will be about mediumship and intuition, learning about your guides. I'm going to be doing trance work. I'm also going to do a demonstration. And that might be readings for everybody. I'm not sure yet, but it's going to be a demonstration that Friday night. And we have an ecstatic dance. So only have 6 spaces left. If you're interested, please sign up now. And we have it's
going to be amazing, James. And it's, I love the fact that it's Lumeria, Maui.
And it's Lumeria.
And if you are a Lumerian, right.
Crystals, by the way.
Oh, it's going to be an extraordinary. And Sue White's fabulous.
So it's great, isn't she wonderful?
Yeah, she's fabulous.
Wonderful
She's got
girl.
great energy, and it's for all. It doesn't matter if you're an accomplished yogi person or not. I mean, it's really
Well,
not.
people think it's all about yoga. It's not about yoga at
Not
all.
at all. Not
No,
at
not at
all.
all. It's about body work, and it's about mind work, and about spirit, your own soul work. So it's gonna be soul work. It's gonna change lives. So I get so excited about it because it will change lives. And
Oh, for sure.
please, everybody, if you're interested, we have 6 spots open, and we can put you with roommates if you want. So do not worry.
Right.
And
Wow.
Kellee, you have something going to be. Well, I do think you'll be in LA, Kellee.
Yeah, no, we're going to be in LA on, it's called the Roots of Healing. I've been doing Roots of Healing with Dr. Shirley Pellizzari and Carrie Gonia for many years now. And this will be our first one in person. And it's June 20th to 23rd. It's in Burbank, California. So
where in Burbank, Kellee?
So Burbank in Toluca Lake, actually. It's a beautiful area. It's a safe area. There's not anything nefarious going on. It's the Amarino Hotel. Amarino Hotel. And if you live in LA, or if you just fly in, you can certainly bring your dog because it's dog friendly.
It's a great hotel. It's a great
hotel.
I thought it was somewhere else because you have nice meeting rooms there.
It's a beautiful meeting room. We have a VIP experience, and we're going to be talking about.
The staff is fabulous.
The staff is fabulous. Oh my gosh! And Shirley's going to be talking about somatic experience, traumas that are stored in the body. She's also going to be she's really gotten into shadow work, James. So we're going to be doing a lot of shadow work. Yeah, because the shadow doesn't have to be negative. The shadow can, move us along. It's designed to move us along. And I'm going to be talking about, the information that my guides are giving me now, which is really Dharma, but you know what my guides told me the other day, James? They said that you are an advancer. I said, what does that even mean?
I love that.
And it was an advance. I never heard the term before. And they said it's to help advance your soul group, to move people along. So I thought that made a lot of sense.
That was a duh.
That was a duh. So it was like, oh, okay. So anyway, I'll be talking about moving from your karma that maybe has been surrounded by your family constellation, and then moving into Dharma. And then certainly Carrie's going to be covering family.
And you might be doing some readings for people, Kellee, just.
Well, we're breaking into groups of 10 each, and I will be doing readings for everybody.
I know you are.
I will be. You're right on. No, I'm doing readings for everybody. We have a great dinners and lunches and breakfast.
Kellee, I see a football over your head. What the hell does that mean?
A football over my head.
Are you watching a football this weekend?
Oh, no. I am zero on
football.
No, I have no idea.
Your grandson, maybe? Check out some of the football, would you? See if it comes in until next week.
Okay.
You'll see. I swear to you, it's the weirdest thing. I just saw a football go right over your head.
Well, I had an ex-boyfriend who died. He was a famous football player. So maybe that could be it.
I'd be open to that. That's pretty. That's pretty miraculous.
Jim, did you just show up?
You just showed up football over your head.
It wouldn't surprise me because my aunt just died. It wouldn't surprise me that we have never had that conversation before. That's very, very funny. That's a miracle. How many people can attend, Kellee? We have room for about 6 more. So if you are thinking of coming to Los Angeles, it's in Burbank, California. So I'm not even going to call it Burbank. Yeah, flying to Burbank. It's fabulous. And if you live in the Los Angeles or Southern California area, please join us. It's going to be a terrific group, and it's great. I love teaching with you, James, and I love teaching with Shirley and Carrie. So
we'll do something later in the year, Kellee, us together.
I would love that. I would love it. That's so much. Come out here. Maybe we'll do something in Chicago again.
We'll do something in Chicago. Yeah, we'll do it.
Come out here. You'll stay with me. My house will be done.
We can do a teaching. We'll do a teaching, and we'll do an evening of demonstration.
That would be so fun. We could do it. Definitely. That would be so fun, James. Oh my gosh. All right.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks, Kel.
Thank you, James. Thanks everybody. See you next week.
Next time.